Okay, so um, I ended up not being able to sleep last night. Not too surprising. Just a little looping thoughts and but I guess about still resisting this, about practice, becoming a more fundamental part of my sacred routine, and I guess what would be coming through with not knowing what I'm doing really yet, but getting more practice in the external knowns and unknowns. So instead of rambling right now, I actually made a script. I'm joking, it was a post, but there still seems to be some like human foundational pragmatic association to the thoughts and references of the past. So let's go ahead and get my story out there in a more way of working with the voice and the third eye, and I guess it's still they're not being shared because of the scare tactics, and I wanted to get it out into the field a few different ways because of a appointment with one of the modalities that I've been practicing for the past 6 or 7 years that I'm going to get some extra help with tonight. Anyway, the scare tactics in regards to information exchanged between approved drugs and more psychedelic positions of acceptable reports of value regarding questions that may want to be in perceivable view of the public in terms of harm reduction for the clarification of classification has generally been an issue, at least in my end of perceivability and giving identifiers of lineage understanding in the awakening communities as well of what is and isn't allowed and to be talked about, I guess, even. I mostly have accepted the anxious stuff, if that. When growing up in the family structure of poverty and addicts amongst projected mental health disease, especially in regards to the veil itself, which I was, again, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I was told I was born without one this time. But I attempted at acclimating to living in perceived unconditional love as a dual/split soul with memories of the quantum entanglement of the actualization of the 2 to 3 great falls being deification, still fairly popular today, in this whole inversion of capacity for understanding higher self and sovereign understanding of this source knowing itself cycled down to this planet we know and love so much. So fell really quickly into the mental health care trap, getting addicted to antidepressants, and to this day still I'm here worrying somewhat about cross-contamination with other brothers' lifelong addictions to Minerva rights of, you know, things that can be looked up already with enough information and imagination out there with creativity. So, I like the antipsychotics, other things like that, manic, and benzodiazepines around 16 to 18 while taking into the marijuana for side effects of just bearing the issues and still failing to find any sort of external validation. Surprise, surprise. So into withdrawal and avoidance of the antidepressants, and ironically, when allowing the additional metrics of PRN benzos and continued approval of the marijuana when going around making declarations about getting as high till transition without the vibrational discrepancy known of frequency ending up mostly pulled into the void on cough syrup, where the anxiety at least was given further reason to continue the isolation beyond phobias paid for with disability money and continued assumptions that this was still somehow my lifetime of projections leading me to a misrepresentation of resistance to redundancy of ego death through sleepless awareness of integration of that apparent awareness, letting the doctors finalize the Klonopin addiction after going through pretty much every drug you can imagine existing in the known or unknown corners of the internet exchange, with even a trip to Canada as a better memory than any provided beyond the enabling integrated, positively anchored in more intent in the past 3 to 6 years, coming to this conclusion over roughly half of my life of that. And yeah, it brings us to about 3 years ago next month. Finally able to quit the benzos and pot for sure, but maybe a year delve back into disassociation with the idea of white knuckling being bad when it's a part of your past that you can just kind of call forth whenever you friggin' want to take a deep kundalini breath. And yeah, I guess I'm off script because it's mostly just iterations at this point. That marijuana is maybe once a week now, and that's taking place of the benzos. Now that I got off of microdosing mushrooms to try and reassociate in that same sort of polarizing, tethering, creative, intense way of GABA antagonists. So yeah, I don't know what I was so nervous about. That's still the plan, that is still the intention, and that is still just minorly uncomfortable given the task of moving cross-state or still cross-country for the first time without any sort of outside knowledge of dependency is still the word that comes to mind first, but that kind of just bounces back to the unavoidable knowledge of what's being shown to me every day of trying to get me into a place I can't afford when Google is showing me what is available where in the price range of probably a U-Haul within the next month or two. Saving my money after getting it for once and not being forced into a retirement community's three-way split of a family you haven't really felt any kind of connection with ever, if you want to be honest. But that's still the major pull on the heartstrings of any still isolated feeling parts of the integratory experience thus far within the last 24 or so hours anyway, since the messages coming through are still telling me it's about 3 to 5, give or take the amount of practice and intent behind these sort of final integrations of being able to actualize some sort of service for humanity beyond sitting here and amplifying whatever is in my awareness, being grateful for it. So, yeah, that's... if anything else comes up, I can always make 2 posts a day, and I'm just going to keep with the good work that I know I am at least making common sense, rationale choices on when staying grounded and still implementing the old lessons in a new earth type of way. Yeah. Okay, namaste, all.